I think, this is the third episode of workplace best practices, and we have this every Monday and Thursday. And I believe this is sort of a continuation from last time. Some conversation that happened around, how to deal with difficult bosses. And there was this conversation that went around, that sometimes you do need to speak up, but then there are consequences for it, right? And I wonder, Pascal, if I may set the context on from my point of view, is I wonder if there are any different ways of speaking up, so that the consequences are not very harsh, to begin with. So, yeah, Pascal, over to you.
Yeah, actually, you have a very good point, because for me, and I know it's of course there are cultural differences, but for me, speaking up in a kind of a way, so really expressing what you want to have, expressing what you like, what your next step is for me one of the basics, one of the most important things that we should do, not only in a career but also on a private life. And it's very interesting that last time we had such a kind of a discussion. What are the consequences of speaking up if you do in a negative way? And for me, it would be also interesting in this 20 minutes to also have a better understanding, let me say that way, if there were some negative consequences, if someone experienced negative consequences by speaking up. I can start from my side. What I would not do anymore, what was like a lesson learned, that was that in the past I had some issues with narcissism managers. So the more the manager was pushing, the more I would give contra. So I was not a person who then just accepted it. And at a certain time, a manager really wanted to take over control, kind of. And he was not my direct manager, but he was, of course, some levels higher than me. And I clearly told him that I was not happy with his behavior. And this was then something which later on had an effect on me, because he had, of course, an influence, and then he could actually convince my management and my manager, so 2 levels above, he could do something. So actually he stopped to have my career path at a certain time. Yeah. So that was an experience from my side, but reflecting now 15 years later, right? So reflecting on this, I would of course do it completely different. I was quite harsh, and of course if you are harsh towards narcissist managers, that's actually not such a good idea. So that's why I really liked your point, what you mentioned, Yayal. That's it's, for me, it's of course not only about speaking up, but it's also about how you really communicate. And there, for me, it's very important that you understand how the other side is really structured, what is the person needed, and that you also try to get on this person level and this person intention, because this, of course, will help you to really have what you want to become, right? Yeah. So this is from my but that was the only experience that I had in my 20 years or 18 years career in several countries worldwide, in several business unit divisions, dealing with multi-culti personalities. Otherwise than that, actually, I only have positive experiences the moment I really spoke up, and I wanted to have something, or I wanted to grow myself and really appoint that to a certain level. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward for having some experiences from your side.
Hmm.
And if you have some negative experiences as well, would be great. Then maybe I can give some input from my point of view how to do it differently in the future.
Yeah, in fact, there are two spots left on in the panel. You can hit the blue button and join anybody who wants to share their experience. And I would also point out that if you hear something interesting, please do hit the Menza button. That will capture 40 seconds of the conversation for you to keep in your library and reflect upon. And it will be also shared on the feed. Yes, Saloni, do you have anything
Hi.
to share?
Yeah, hi, good evening. And yeah, this is a topic I think everyone would have. I hope I'm
Yes,
audible.
you are.
Okay, great. Yeah, so what I just felt was that I should be a part of this session because, as you know, Pascal just said, there are more positive experiences than negative. But I personally wanted to seek some resolution over a recent thing. So, as far as positive is concerned, I would take up a very recent episode because this is a time when all of us are grieving. There's so much of pain and trauma everywhere. So there was a lot happening over WhatsApp shares in the organization. And at that time, we noticed that many people were getting affected, but they were really not sharing that it's bringing them so much more trauma, lots of pain and grief being shared, somebody's death, and continuous overflow of what to do, what not to do, excess information being shared. So that was the time when I actually reached out to my head of the organization, and I told him that, can we do something about this, because oversharing is actually causing so much harm, because my colleagues did tell me also. And at that time it worked, because if nobody did, then this would have been going on, and everybody would be feeling down, but they would not come up and speak. So I was happy that I did, and good stand was taken by the organization, and we reduced and set up some protocols, and it turned out to be a more healing space than a place where you would be sharing more things that would cause anxiety. So I was happy to contribute in that way. There are more negative ones which I'm struggling with myself as well, and I would like to bring it in later, if you permit.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Jafar, you had something to share. Saloni, you can definitely continue sharing once we have all got the chance to speak.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Jafar?
My experience of speaking up has been that I went through a journey of not speaking up at all to speaking up at the wrong times. But over time, I've sort of realized that I seems like I need to meet three criteria to speak up. Right, one is that if I'm calm enough that I've taken a long breath and gone through it once or twice again, whether to see it's worth or not, or if it's valid or not, it is genuine or not, authentic or not, and if it really matters to the discussion and going forward to the future of the team, right? And second is if I have enough skin in the game that I can do this, and I'm ready to face any consequences that come by, right? And to add to that, the third one would include that you have enough skin in the game that you are also willing to sort of, if it turns out to be a wrong speculation of yours or a gut feeling that you wanted to express, that came out as a rather, inducing fear in the team or something. And then you're ready to sort of correct it, admit that you're wrong as soon as possible, and, uh, sort of normalize, manage that situation, right? That sometimes, many times, what happens is when we are speaking up, there's also a lot of emotions involved, right? And then you keep carrying that emotion, even if you're
You
proved
just
sort of wrong. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you tend to kind of burden yourself so much. And yeah, you're right, Jafar. I totally relate to what you said in the beginning. From not being able to speak up, I belong to that club. And now, when you want to speak up, maybe you're doing it at the wrong time, and you really can't get that result. So, thank you so much for that insight.
Mm.
It's so much us, all of us
Yeah.
may have gone through that. Yeah.
Well, what I learned is you're absolutely right, and I learned that, speaking up has different different variations, right? The one, if you talk about like, I want to speak up for my career, then this for next step, then that would be very, very good, of course, if you do that like a very private. That means that you give also the manager time to have a discussion, to that he also can reflect. And if it's in the middle of a project, if like it's getting very emotional, then like you said, Jafar, for me the best way is to calm down yourself, whatever you do it, to 2 or 3 times breathe in and breathe out. So to really put away the emotions, and try, I just say try. I mean, in reality, it's not always so easy, but try to really stay in the facts. So try to blend as much as possible the emotions, that you are fact basis oriented. And if you have the feeling it is a personality, because I'm always saying it really depends the personality. If you have the feeling that it is a personality who don't want to have negative feedback, or who don't want to have contra, then a good possibility or a good way to deal this is that you say okay, is it possible that we that we extend that a little bit, and that we have then a private chat on this before we make a decision. So that if you are in a big group and this is like the decision maker, and you are also have a kind of a decision possibility, that you're not including the whole group, because then for the manager who needs to decide, this person don't want to lose his face, so this person in public will try not to lose the face, right? And by just putting this person aside and then having a meeting the day after, first of all, emotionally wise, everyone is calmed down. So there is not an emotion anymore, or much less. Everyone slept about it. Maybe they also slept about their own behavior. And then if you discuss this kind of things the day after in a private way, one-to-one, the outcome can be much more harmonized than it's in the middle of the situation where everyone was heated up.
Yeah, but Pascal, don't you think that the environment in your organization should be such that puts in a lot of courage in you to be able to reach out to at least one such person? It depends a lot on where you are. As far as the organization policy is concerned, even that allows you to come out and share and get matters like such difficult situations with your colleagues or otherwise. So don't you think there's a big role of the organizational culture as well? Otherwise, most of us are sulking. There's so much of resentment.
Yes, of course. But again, it depends, of course, the situation. If you have the feeling that it's not going in the right direction, and you have some issues to de-escalate emotionally this whole thing, and you have the feeling that the other person is not open for any other suggestions, then for me, the only way is that you say, okay, let's talk about that later. If you have the feeling this person is still open for having a discussion, and this person is on a same level, or again, it depends the personality, right? I had some managers where I knew that they can be harsh, but I also know that they listen to you. And as long as you have a manager like this who will not directly accept your point of view, but you know that this person is listening to you, then of course you can continue. If you have a person who has the character that after 2 or 3 words you're saying, this person is directly blocking you and say, stop, no, I don't want to hear this, and I don't want to have the solution, then it's of course different. Yeah? So then I go more in with the tactical thing that I talked in with this person on a one-to-one on a more easier point of the day.
So I can't tell you how many email responses are lying unsent in my inbox. When I received a flaming email, I quickly drafted a reply, but then never decided to send it. And I was
Yeah.
happy that I didn't do that because it continued in a very positive way. Otherwise, if I would have sent it, I know how it would have, worsened the matter. So there are too many of these responses lying in my inbox, and I'm happy I went it out that way.
That is so true.
Definitely, definitely email, because email is still another communication. Like you say, email. Okay, first of all, in an email, you have the disadvantage that you have no idea about the emotions of the other person reading it, because you don't see the person in front of you. So that means the whole body language of this person, you have no idea. So it can be that this person is reading this email in the middle of the night after having a fight with the wife or whatever. You have no idea when this person reads the email, right? So writing things in an email, well, I would never write in an email an emotional thing, because first of all, it's on a piece of paper, so it's on black and
True.
white. And secondly, mostly you will regret it the moment you send it. So the best thing is, like you said, you're just deep breathing, and then you leave the email as it is, and then 4 or 5 hours later, then you pick up the email and you try to respond as neutral as possible, as fact based as possible, right?
Yeah, I would like to pull your attention to some of the listeners' comments, Pascal. Divya is saying, I wonder if it's also cultural, the perceived cost of speaking up. And Mahesh is saying that organizations with an empowered HR department would always nurture an environment and culture of open space and speaking up. So, what do you have to say? And Manoj is saying that nothing can substitute face-to-face communication, which is what you, Pascal, were talking about. So, what do you have to say about Divya's question about cultural?
Definitely, because
Yeah.
even for me coming from Belgium, for me was actually the Netherlands a shock, because even though we speak up quite a lot, the Netherlands is even much more harsh. When I came from headquarters with a new program or something like that, and they did not like it, they would directly say in my face, "What kind of a bullshit? I'm not going to implement this." Just like this.
Whoa.
So this was like, it's not like they put things between lines or they say yes and they mean no. No, they're gonna directly in your face tell the truth. On the
I
other
prefer
hand,
that. Yeah.
it's actually, I like working with this kind of personalities, because then you know where you are.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, Pascal. I prefer that, and I was speaking about this in the last circle, that I do not know how to read between the lines, and when somebody's giving me feedback or something, I really don't know if it's not directly pointed. So I think it's very good if people are talking in that manner. But my experience has been such that speaking up as somebody who's so close to, and like I've spoken before, that my experience has always been with startups, and there are no organizational HR departments and cultures and things like that as such, as in there is a huge startup culture, and that particular institution would have a good cultural ecosystem as such, but not something which is rule based or set, right? So when I did speak up, and I was speaking about this last time as well, that I was almost ostracized to an extent that we were going for a client meeting, and I was asked to sit in one corner of the plane while the other team members and other people, the boss himself, would be on the other side, right? So it was in that manner, and it was very blatantly exposed to the rest of the people as well. So what do you have to say about that, Pascal? Maybe do you think that, and yes, maybe I was not very, how do you say, tactical in, speaking up, and it was not that I shouted and screamed, and I just said that, I put my foot down. That's all what I did. I said, I'm not going to ask my team to come on a Sunday. And, that's all I said. So, what do you think about that, Pascal?
Yep. For me, it's then one important thing for startups is that you never forget the values of the company. So
Hmm.
normally, that should be something that a company starts with is really your why, of course, and what are the
Hmm.
values behind your core values. And
Hmm.
actually, everything should be based on those core values.
Hmm.
So, like what you say, this is completely about respect from employees, right? So again, I would go more in this direction from what would the consequences be
Hmm.
if this is like mandatory or if it's like wanted that the employees are squeezed out, right? So because at the end, on a long-term point of view, this will not be a very happy and happy environment, right?
Yep.
Because at a certain time, people will be frustrated and will leave the company. And someone who
Hmm.
leaves the company, if you have a replace, it takes, depending the position, it can take till more than 1 year before this person is fully replaced, right?
Yep.
So at the end, the damage that you have from a kind of a behavior can be much more dramatical than the fact itself. So I would play around with the values. Honestly, I would sit together and say from okay, what are actually our values, core values towards our customers and towards ourselves as an organization, right?
Yep.
Because this is actually the basic of everything.
Hmm. Yes, so true.
That's
And I
nice.
also felt, also felt that one thing that I realized that, since I'm not very tactical in terms of how I am, communicating a problem that I have with something going on, this email writing, Saloni, that you mentioned, I do write an email, but I don't send it, especially so that I can put my thoughts down in a much more pragmatic, way in which I can explain it to that person rather than so I know I've put my thoughts down, and then if
It
it's
helps when you
yeah, it
introspect
really helps. Yeah,
later.
yeah. So I would actually invite some more people. We have a little bit of time to share the story. Otherwise, yeah, Jafar, Soloni, Pascal, anything else you want?
I just thought that, because Pascal brought out examples of Belgium, I'm a communication faculty. I also teach cross cultural communication. So, we have so many times that we have to share examples to our students. So, I'm very happy that I met you, Pascal. And one of the things that I realized was, most of our students also go for cross cultural collaborative projects. And many times they have also come back with certain examples like these at times when in the working in a small group, what happened and how the other country reacted, and they are not very aware of how to handle it. So I think this is a forum where I would love that more such examples